The school beside the mosque. The day, everything scattered. The morning sun had barely climbed over the roofs of the village when Sani was already running, not walking, running. One sandal was on his foot. The other was nowhere to be found. Behind him, his mother's voice echoed from the compound. "Sani, you will not eat if you go late again." But Sani did not stop. Hunger was serious, but assembly punishment was more serious. He turned sharply past the sleeping goat, almost tripping over a water pot placed outside a neighbor's house. He muttered, adjusting his crooked school bag. Today was Monday, and Mondays in government secondary school near the mosque were never peaceful. The school gate problem. As Sani reached the school gate, the bell had already started ringing. Ding, ding, ding. Students were rushing in like rainwater entering a broken roof, but Sani stopped. His second sandal was sitting peacefully near the gate post. He froze. If he went in like this, students would laugh. If he delayed, Mr. Patrick would shout. He quickly grabbed the sandal and tried to put it on. Wrong foot. A student passing by laughed quietly. Sani corrected it fast, too fast, and nearly fell again. Just normal walking today, he told himself. No drama. That was his first mistake of the day. Assembly begins. The school assembly ground was already full. Students stood in uneven lines, some straight, some like question marks. Teachers stood in front looking like judges. At the center was Mr. Patrick, the English teacher, holding a paper like it contained the judgment of the world. He cleared his throat. "Good morning, students." A weak response came back. "Good morning, sir." Sani arrived exactly at that moment. Late. Dust on his uniform. One sandal slightly loose. Every eye turned. The first trouble. The discipline prefect pointed at him. Sani quickly joined the back row, trying to become invisible. But invisibility was not his gift. Mr. Patrick's eyes landed on him. "You, small boy with big trouble energy, come forward." The entire assembly became silent. Even birds near the mosque seemed to pause. Sani walked forward slowly. Inside his mind, maybe today I will just disappear completely. The mistake that started everything. Mr. Patrick asked loudly, "Why are you late?" Sani wanted to answer respectfully, but nervousness changed everything. He tried to speak English. I am coming from the house of my parent where I was, delaying unintentionally because of situation of morning arrangement." Silence. Then one student at the back coughed, trying not to laugh. Mr. Patrick frowned. "English is suffering in your mouth." Laughter spread, but quickly stopped when the discipline prefect stared. Sani just stood there, wishing the ground could understand mercy. The mosque. Nearby. From a distance, the morning call to activity around the mosque could be heard, people preparing for the day, calm and steady. Sani looked in that direction for a second. He remembered what Imam Saidu always said. Truth is simple. Confusion is from too much pride or fear. Sani swallowed. Maybe his problem was not English. Maybe it was panic. The announcement that changed the day. Mr. Patrick suddenly raised the paper in his hand. "Listen carefully." The entire school became silent again. "This school is under review. If results do not improve this term," he paused, "there may be serious consequences." That word hit the air like stone. Students stopped smiling. Even the wind seemed quieter. Sani felt something tighten in his chest. This was no longer just school trouble. This was bigger. As assembly ended, students slowly broke formation. Some were joking again. Some were worried. But Sani stood still for a moment. one sandal slightly loose, bag hanging crooked, watching the school building beside the mosque. For the first time, he didn't feel like laughing. He felt like something important had just begun, and somehow, he was already inside it. The boy with too many ideas. By break time, the entire school already knew Sani's new name. Morning arrangement. Nobody remembered who started it, but now whenever Sani passed, somebody would whisper, "Situation of morning arrangement." Then another student would start laughing. Sani pretended not to hear. Inside, however, he was dying slowly. Bello and his priorities. Under the old neem tree behind SS2 classroom, Bello was eating beans cake like a man who had not seen food for 7 years. "Sani," he said with a full mouth, "your problem is simple." Sani frowned. "You always think too much before talking." "That is not a problem." "It is a problem. Look at me." Bello pointed proudly at himself. "I never think before talking." "Yes," Sani replied dryly. "Everybody already knows." Bello ignored the insult completely and continued eating. That was another thing about Bello. Nothing embarrassed him. Not punishment, not insults, not even falling asleep during class. The school beside the mosque. From the neem tree, the mosque could be seen clearly beyond the school fence. Its white walls reflected sunlight softly. Sometimes, during quiet moments, students could hear Quran recitation floating through the air. The school and mosque stood side by side like two neighbors with completely different personalities, one peaceful, one noisy. And somehow, students moved between both worlds every single day. Sani's big dream. "What if," Sani suddenly said, "we help the school?" Bello stopped chewing. "That announcement this morning. What if the school really closes?" Bello shrugged. "If school closes, I will finally rest." Sani looked horrified. "How can you say that?" "My friend, education is important," Bello replied wisely, "but sleep is also important." Sani ignored him. His mind was already moving fast, too fast. That was always the beginning of trouble. "What if students start group reading?" Sani said excitedly. "What if we organize extra lessons? What if we create a student improvement plan?" Bello stared at him carefully. Then he swallowed slowly. "That look is back." "What look?" "The look you had before you tried to repair the classroom fan." Sani became defensive immediately. That fan was already weak. The fan fell on the floor. It was an accident. The headmaster nearly fainted. Sani crossed his arms. "This idea is different." Bello sighed deeply toward the heavens. "Ya Allah, protect this school." The dangerous volunteer. Later that afternoon, students gathered in class waiting for the next teacher. Noise filled the room. Some students argued. Some exchanged snacks. One boy at the back was already sleeping. Then suddenly, the class captain entered with urgent news. "Mr. Patrick is looking for volunteers." The room became quiet instantly. Nobody trusted that sentence. Sani slowly sat up. "For what?" The class captain shrugged. "He said students who care about the future of the school should come." Sani's eyes widened. This was destiny. Bello saw the excitement immediately. "No." Sani stood up. "Yes." "No." "Yes." "You are about to destroy something again." Sani grabbed his notebook dramatically. "If good people stay silent, who will help?" Bello pointed toward the window. "Anybody except you." Too late. Sani was already walking out proudly. The staff room. The staff room smelled of chalk, old books, and seriousness. Several teachers sat marking papers. Mr. Patrick stood near the table holding files. When he saw Sani, his eyebrows rose slowly. "You?" Sani smiled nervously. "Yes, sir. I came to assist the future of the school." A nearby teacher almost laughed into his cup of tea. Mr. Patrick adjusted his glasses. "Interesting." Then another voice entered from the corner. "Good. We need responsible students." It was the vice principal. Everybody respected him because he rarely smiled, and when he did smile, people became afraid. The vice principal handed Sani a paper. "We are organizing an academic improvement meeting tomorrow morning." Sani nodded seriously. "You will help announce it to all students." Sani's chest filled with pride immediately. Finally, responsibility, trust, importance. At last, people would stop seeing him as the boy of morning arrangement, the announcement practice. That evening after school, Sani practiced his announcement alone behind the classroom. "Attention, everybody." No. He cleared his throat. "Distinguished students of this educational institution." No. Too dangerous. Again. "Fellow serious citizens of government secondary school." Still bad. He groaned. Public speaking was harder than mathematics. Suddenly Bello appeared, carrying roasted groundnuts. "I knew I would find you doing something unnecessary." Sani ignored him. "I just need confidence." Bello nodded. "Yes, and maybe emergency medical support." Evening reflection. As sunset colored the village orange, Sani walked home quietly. Children played football on dusty roads. Women called their children inside. The mosque loudspeaker carried gentle Quran recitation through the evening air. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Sani smiled. Maybe tomorrow would finally be different. Maybe tomorrow he would do something good without causing disaster. Maybe. Sani. He turned. A small boy was running toward him breathlessly. "What happened?" The boy bent over, trying to breathe. The notice paper." "What about it?" The boy looked terrified. "It has scattered everywhere." Sani froze. "What?" "The wind carried all the papers." His heart stopped. "What do you mean scattered?" "Everywhere. Market, Mosque Road, even inside the women's section fence near the well." Sani's face lost color. The announcement papers, official school papers, signed by the vice principal, gone. At that exact moment, the evening wind rose again, and one final paper flew across the dusty road, straight into a muddy gutter in front of Sani. He stared at it in horror. Then he noticed something worse. Footsteps, heavy footsteps, coming behind him, slowly, firmly, dangerously. Sani turned and saw the vice principal standing there, holding one wet, muddy announcement paper in his hand. Sani's soul nearly left his body. The vice principal stood silently beside the gutter, holding the muddy paper between two fingers like dangerous evidence. The evening wind moved softly around them. Nobody spoke, not even Bello. And Bello always spoke. Finally, the vice principal looked at Sani. "Explain." Sani opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His brain was running. Unfortunately, it was running in different directions. Sir, the atmospheric condition unexpectedly collaborated with environmental movement to produce." "Stop." Sani stopped immediately. The vice principal closed his eyes slowly. Even the small boy nearby looked tired. The disaster investigation. 5 minutes later, Sani and Bello were walking around the village searching for missing announcement papers. Some were hanging on fences. One had landed inside a wheelbarrow. Another was stuck to a goat. Bello removed it carefully. "This school is finished," he declared. "Please stop saying that." "My friend, the official paper of the vice principal was just eaten halfway by livestock." Sani sighed deeply. This was not how responsible students behaved. An unexpected escape. By Allah's mercy, most of the papers were recovered before nightfall. The vice principal remained strict, but calmer. "Tomorrow morning," he warned, "you will personally make the assembly announcement." Sani froze. "In front of everybody?" "Yes." His legs weakened instantly, public speaking again. Bello shook his head sadly. "It was nice knowing you." Home was not peaceful. Either that night at home, Sani sat quietly eating tuwo, while his father listened to radio news. Malam Musa was a serious man. Even his silence looked disciplined. "You were late to school again today," he suddenly said. Sani almost swallowed incorrectly. "How did you know?" Malam Musa looked at him. "This village has ears." That was true. News moved through the village faster than motorcycles. Hajia Zainabu quickly defended her son. "He is trying." Malam Musa nodded slowly. "Trying is good, but responsibility is better." Sani lowered his eyes. Those words stayed inside his mind long after dinner ended.
The next morning, Sani woke before sunrise, not because he was responsible, because fear refused to let him sleep. After Fajr prayer at the mosque, he remained seated quietly while people left one by one. Imam Saidu noticed him. "You look troubled." Sani hesitated, then spoke honestly. "I keep trying to do good things, but somehow trouble follows me." The Imam smiled slightly. "Good intentions are important, but wisdom is also important." Sani listened carefully. "Do not rush to become important," the Imam continued. "First learn how to become steady." Steady. Sani repeated the word silently. Maybe that was his real problem. The announcement day. Assembly ground. Monday atmosphere. Thousands of eyes. Well, maybe not thousands. But to Sani, it felt like the entire world was present. Mr. Patrick adjusted the microphone importantly. "Today," he announced, "a responsible student will address the school." Bello whispered from the line, "Responsible has left the chat." Sani ignored him, barely. His heart was beating like someone knocking on a locked door. The vice principal stood nearby, watching carefully. No escape, no hiding. Sani stepped forward. The microphone made a loud screeching sound. Students laughed softly. He swallowed, then remembered Imam Saidu's advice. Truth is simple. No morning arrangement, just speak normally. He took a breath. "Good morning, everybody." The students answered. "Good. So far, survival was possible." "We have an academic improvement meeting tomorrow after school," he continued carefully. "Students are encouraged to attend seriously because our school results are becoming worrying." Silence. Then some students nodded. Sani relaxed slightly. Maybe this was finally working. Maybe. Then Mr. Patrick suddenly interrupted loudly. "Louder! Speak with educational confidence." Panic returned immediately. Sani grabbed the microphone tighter. And that was the beginning of the second disaster. "Our school is entering academic danger," Sani shouted. The microphone exploded with sound. Students jumped. Birds flew away from nearby trees. A baby outside the school fence started crying. But Sani continued nervously. "If we do not improve, consequences may occur, unfortunately." Now students were fully awake. Even teachers looked alarmed. Mr. Patrick's eyes widened. The vice principal frowned deeply. Sani tried to reduce his voice. Unfortunately, his hand touched the microphone wire. Everything happened at once. The microphone stand tilted. Mr. Patrick tried to catch it. The wire wrapped around his leg. He slipped sideways dramatically and crashed directly into the water cooler beside the assembly ground. Water exploded everywhere. Students screamed. Teachers shouted. The cooler rolled across the ground like a football, and Mr. Patrick stood up completely soaked. Absolute silence covered the assembly ground. Then Bella whispered loudly from the back. "Educational confidence has entered water." Half the students nearly died trying not to laugh. Mr. Patrick removed his glasses slowly, very slowly. Water dripped from his sleeves. His face looked calm, too calm. Sani immediately knew. This was no longer normal trouble. This was advanced trouble. The vice principal stepped forward. "Sani." "Yes, sir. Follow me." No emotion, no shouting. That was worse. Teachers moved aside silently as Sani walked behind the vice principal toward the administration building. Students stared like they were watching a prisoner. Bello placed a hand over his chest dramatically. "We shall remember you."
Inside the office corridor, the vice principal stopped walking. Then he opened a brown file slowly. Sani noticed his own name written on the front. His stomach turned cold. The vice principal looked at him carefully. Then said the words Sonny feared most. "This is not your first incident." He opened the file wider. Inside were papers, reports, complaints, records, and right on top was a fresh document titled Disciplinary Review. Sonny's breathing stopped. Then the vice principal said quietly, "There is one more thing you do not know yet." Outside the office, the sound of angry voices suddenly erupted from the assembly ground. Loud, confused, growing fast. The vice principal turned toward the window sharply, and somebody outside shouted, "The water cooler is broken."